Welcome, YouTube. Today we're going to be reacting to Batman's Scariest Villain by the Mullet Man comics. If I were to guess which one his most scariest villain, honestly, I wouldn't know because there's a lot of good picks, right? Some would say Joker, some would say not Two-Face, Scarecrow. Some would say maybe Bane, but then there's Killer Croc, right? And that's pretty scary. You don't want to run into that in the middle of the night in your sewer swimming. Um, and then we have Man Bats. We have, you know what? I know who it's gonna be. It's gonna be the Condiment King. The Condiment King is the scariest villain.
Well, I guess it's finally time to talk about James Gordon Jr. James Gordon Jr., despite not being as widely recognized as some of Gotham City's more notorious villains, possesses a chilling presence and a truly terrifying nature that sets him apart from others. James Gordon Jr., to put him bluntly, is the black sheep of the Gordon family. Because where each member of the family is heroic in some way, James Gordon Jr. is the complete 180 pop shove it. And in this video, I'm going to explain why James Gordon Jr. can be considered a purely terrifying villain. As I'd even go so far as to say that he's more scary than the likes of the Joker or Professor Pig, like I've talked about in the past.
I forgot about Professor
For one,
Pig.
James Gordon
you know what?
Jr.'s
You have a valid
unpredictability
point
makes
there.
him an unnerving adversary. His ability to blend into the crowd, hide his true intentions, and manipulate others without detection creates an atmosphere of constant unease. You never know what he's planning or when he might strike, making him a truly disturbing and terrifying villain. Number 2, James Gordon Jr. is an incredibly intelligent individual, capable of devising intricate plans and outsmarting his opponents. His strategic thinking and meticulous attention to detail allows him to exploit weaknesses and exploit the vulnerabilities of others. Call him Light Yagami. And if it couldn't get any better, there's also his
He kind of looks like him. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I was thinking. I'm not gonna lie.
complete and utter lack of empathy, which truly sets James Gordon Jr. apart from most other villains, except maybe the Joker, of course. His ability to detach himself emotionally enables him to commit disturbing acts without remorse or hesitation, and this absence of empathy allows him to manipulate and harm others without
knives on the
conscience,
knees,
creating
though.
a sense of dread and fear in those who encounter him. And finally, his dark past, in which I'll fully break down because it's a truly disturbing origin, and that's putting it pretty mildly, because James Gordon Jr. is one crazy son of a bitch, and his story is not for the faint of heart.
I've actually never heard about him.
Deeper into the character of James Gordon Jr., hear first a word from our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is an option today.
No, thank you. I want to get straight into this.
It's believed that during the events of Batman Year One, that after James Gordon Jr. as a baby fell from a bridge, James Gordon Jr. suffered from so much head trauma from the fall that growing up he developed psychopathic tendencies. Examples include James Gordon Jr. getting quick to anger and malicious behaviors when upset.
I just want to see where it keeps. Whoa! But wrong how? Wrong why? Wrong is it fall? What's the fall? The trauma? Was it me? Some nights, when he was little, I'd look at him and think it was the city. This twisted city that was twisting him. I'd scoop him up, I'd hold him and look somewhere I could take him.
Like killing and dissecting animals, dressing up in...
Ready, Dad? Somewhere we could go safe where he'd stay small and innocent forever, but deep down I know it. Damn. Damn. Imagine dressing as a Joker. That's crazy.
Idolizing the Joker on several occasions, and even going so far as to kill several of Barbara Gordon's friends because he didn't like them. With the exception of Dick Grayson, because in his eyes, Dick was always nice to him and pure of heart. And also in James Gordon Jr.'s early years, he was also...
What is he, Joker? I mean, Dick Grayson's Joker? Is that what I'm seeing here? Is he Dick's Joker? Is that the role we're playing here?
incredibly smart and intuitive, and always knew how to cover up heinous acts given that his father was a detective, and would closely admire the works of art he'd seen from case files brought home by his father after work, most specifically the Joker's. And what's so incredibly interesting to me about James Gordon Jr.'s early years is how his family looked upon him. Like introduced to his sister Barbara Gordon, it was almost like she knew there was something off with him, like she could just see through his lifeless eyes something pure evil. As Barbara Gordon always speculated that her brother was responsible for many horrific acts, but never had any evidence to back up her claims, just that he was always around the vicinity when something bad took place. And as a child, James is off-putting even to his mother, who feels the strangeness of him, but isn't sure how to put it to words. Then there's Jim. He's a father, but he's also a veteran detective. He can see the dark spark in a baby who doesn't cry, whose classmates mysteriously fall ill when he's displeased with them. A grade school kid who casually disembowels a bird and dresses as the Joker for Halloween. That last one is grade A fridge horror, so Jim can see that there's an issue, but even so he balks at allowing therapists to administer the psychopathy checklist to his son. After all, just as he's a father, he's also a detective. He's a detective, but also a father. Still, all that came before pales in comparison.
You should have done it. You should have done it. You should have done it. You should have done it, because now he's alive and he's out there and he's a psychopath, and you know what? You live with the consequences of your actions now.
To what happened when Gordon took James and Barbara on a family vacation, during which Barbara's longtime friend Bess disappeared. Officially, Bess's disappearance remains unsolved to this day, but there has long been a whisper of suspicion floating through the Gordon household, the belief that James, only a child at the time, may have been responsible. So to understand why,
as a child murderer, child psycho,
this. The Gordons, Jim, Barbara, James Jr., and Jim's second wife Sarah, arrive at their comfortable summer house and are greeted by Bess, a science-curious girl that's Barbara's age. The friends share a science kit, Barbara with the kit herself, and Bess with a key shaped as a bat so that they can use it together. Bess takes note of James Jr.'s glasses, making a little joke about them. James fiddles with the lock on the kit and nearly breaks it. Later, Bess leaves for home. She walks through the woods, passes beside a river, a shadow falls over her, and
smacked her, knocked her out.
That's the end of Bess's story. Her body is never found, and it isn't even certain that she's dead. She's a teenager after all. Sometimes they run away. The only thing is, when Jim goes upstairs to speak to James, he finds his son alone, hunched over the unlocked science kit, leaving Jim and the rest of the Gordon family to ponder the question if James Jr. had something to do with Bess's disappearance. After this traumatic event on the Gordon family, his father and sister would always feel a looming presence of evil from James, so Commissioner Gordon would try to discipline his son any way he knew how. And when nothing worked, he even at one point put James Gordon Jr. in a cell next to the Joker.
Oh my god.
For a whole night. In essence, nothing ever worked, so James Jr. was sent off to live with his biological mother in Chicago. However, things only managed to get much worse as James grew up. Lacking any empathy for human life, he quickly began to start killing random people all over the city to feel anything. But nothing ever changed. His sanity was falling down a mudslide at this point. Until James Gordon Jr.
Joker's your nanny for tonight. I don't think he will. I think Joker would be kind of scared of this guy, considering Joker has a reason to be crazy, right? He fell into that vat, and that turned him crazy. Here, he hit his head. And I think what's creepier about this one, right, is that he's just a psycho. There is no dark backstory exactly. There's no like betrayal. There's no turning point. There's no mentally break. It's just he's just always been a psycho.
Enrolled into an experimental drug facility.
And I think I think for the reason that it's even more creepy is because it just feels real. If you get what I mean, it just feels real.
Empathy. For a while, this
you could see this happening.
Jr. almost changing himself for the better, but after some time, he began to see empathy or emotion itself as a crutch, a weakness even. So James Gordon Jr. took it upon himself to reverse engineer the drug so that he could eliminate any kind of emotion from his body. In a way, essentially killing his soul if he ever had one to begin with. Once it was complete, he felt at peace until watching the news, he saw something strange. He saw Batman smile on TV. And Batman never smiles. So James Gordon Jr. wanted to give this Batman a reason to never smile again, leading James to make his way back to Gotham to kill his family and become this different Batman's nemesis.
Did he just say his Bruce?
Batman.
Wait. There was a picture of him, of Batman, and he was leaping down on criminals, but the thing was he was smiling. And all of a sudden he's new. I knew that was you under the mask, not Bruce. You. How does he know who Batman is? How? How does he know who Batman is? Excuse me, we're just passing by this lore drop. Not even Joker knows. Not even Two-Face. Not even Scarecrow. Well, depending on the game. Not even Scarecrow. Not Bane. Not Killer Croc. Not anybody that's super smart besides maybe Ra's al Ghul. But like nobody really knows where his identity is. Yet somehow this psychopath just knows that it's Bruce. And not only that, that Batman's technically his real identity. Hello, Lilac. How you doing? Welcome in. I wrong button. Fuck. You're right here. Yeah, we got it right away. How? Welcome in though. Welcome in. Hi. I don't
reason to never smile again, leading James to make his way back to Gotham to kill his family and become this different Batman's nemesis. Starting slow, he'd pay kids to break into the Gotham Zoo and free all the animals, visit his father to let him know that he'll be working at a hospital in Gotham as a caregiver because he's suddenly reformed after taking a new experimental drug, so he says. And beyond catching up with his father, he also meets up with Dick Grayson to catch up and talk about old times.
Oh my god.
Even though Dick is a little apprehensive on meeting him. So to break the ice, he reminds James Gordon Jr. about old times playing in the park together with his sister and another kid, but he can't remember who it is. To which James eerily says, Ben Wolf, like James has done something wrong already. Until James saves himself by saying he actually ran into Ben the other day and that he was a real jerk back then. But now he's a pharmaceutical representative who lives on the east side, saying it's funny how some people take a while to grow up, while some other people just never change. Feeling the uneasiness of the conversation, Dick decides that he's had his fill of James Jr. and leaves to be Batman. The next morning, James Gordon Jr. is seen at Ben Wolf's house.
Huh? What do you mean he leaves to be Batman? I thought Bruce was Batman. Am I tripping? What's happening here?
That he's had his fill of James Jr. and leaves to be Batman. The next
leaves to be Batman. Hold on, let me turn on subtitles here. Am my ears deceiving? Leaves to Batman. So what? Is Dick the Batman now? Did Bruce die?
This morning, James Gordon Jr. is seen at Ben Wolf's house checking his mail. Then he enters his home and makes his way towards
wait a minute. Espérate, wait a minute.
And Batman never smiles. So James Gordon Jr. wanted to give this Batman a reason to never smile again, leading James to make his way back to Gotham to kill his family and become this different Batman's nemesis.
Oh my god. Okay, I think I know what to understand what's happening, right? Batman never smiles. You're absolutely right, Lilac. Batman never smiles. This isn't Batman. This isn't Batman. This is Dick Grayson taking the mantle. And because oh my god, this all makes sense. It all makes sense. Aha! You are right, Lilac. Batman smiling is crazy. So crazy that it makes sense why it isn't him. This is not Batman. Literally.
Starting slow, he'd pay kids to break into the Gotham Zoo and free all the animals, visit his father to let him know that he'll be working at a hospital in Gotham as a caregiver. The laughter that something such of James talking about. You. And while some other people just never change. Feeling the uneasiness of the conversation, Dick decides that he's had his fill of James Jr. and leaves to be Batman. The next morning, James Gordon Jr. is seen at Ben Wolf's house checking his mail. Then he enters his home and makes his way towards the basement. And as James proceeds down the steps, a disfigured body can be seen hung up with body parts surrounding him, as James tells Ben that he just ran into Dick Grayson, and guess who they were talking about? You. And through Ben's missing jaw, he begs James to stop, but James just pulls out a saw and says, Now, where were we? Reading this from the graphic novel, I swear to you, it sent a cold shiver down my spine like you wouldn't believe. Further into the story, Commissioner
That's
Gordon gets quite suspicious of James
that's
Jr., so he
creepy,
goes
but
to his
also
workplace and
cool. I
swipes
like
one
it.
of
I
his
like the
son's
psycho.
pills and gives the pill to Barbara to reverse engineer to see if his son is actually telling the truth about the experimental medication. Meanwhile, at Arkham Asylum, Joker is in the middle of being transferred when he begins to taunt a doctor and his life on how the doctor's wife is always sick and he's always taking care of her night after night. The doctor wonders how Joker could even know that, but in the middle of talking, he begins to laugh uncontrollably, shouting through the laughter that something's secreting from the Joker's skin, as he kills one of the security guards. Meanwhile, back at the lab, the test results
Always
come back,
something.
and it turns out that James Gordon Jr. somehow reverse-engineered the drug to actually amplify psychopathic tendencies. Jim then asks Barbara what his plan could even be, and Barbara mentions that he wouldn't be able to just dump this psychoactive drug into the waters. It would just get filtered out. And even if he did, the potency would be too weak to affect adult brains.
Okay,
However,
I
for
understand
children,
that.
it'd be a different case entirely. And suddenly a horrible look falls over
Oh,
Jim's face and
that's
he realizes that
fucked.
James has been doing the nutrition runs for the hospital, meaning he's been passing these pills out along with the baby formula in an attempt to poison Gotham's children. Jim rushes down to his car and speeds all the way down to James Jr.'s apartment, and as he gets there, Jim kicks in the door and he shouts for James to show himself, but finds that no one's home. While searching through the apartment, Jim finds a small box in the closet, and as he begins to open it up, shortly after
Oh,
this,
it's the
Harvey
keychain
Bullock
with
walks
the
in telling him that Joker's out, but Jim doesn't answer. And Harvey asks if everything's okay, as Jim pulls out Bess's bat-shaped key, saying no. Nothing's okay. Jim rushes back to his car and he calls his ex-wife
stealing
Barb.
the keys his MO. It might be his MO. How many?
No, nothing's okay. Jim rushes back, and as he begins to open it up,
How many
shortly
keys have
after
he
this,
taken?
Harvey Bullock walks in telling him that Joker's out, but Jim doesn't answer. And Harvey asks if everything's okay, as Jim pulls
Snyder's Fran Admiral. Whoa, look at this collection. This stash is crazy. He definitely been busy.
out Bess's bat-shaped key, saying no. Nothing's okay. Jim rushes back to his car and he calls his ex-wife Barbara to tell her what's going on. He frantically tells her to stay inside because the Joker has escaped and he's probably going to target them. Barbara then asks why the Joker would do that, to which Gordon shouts because the Joker always comes after them, telling her to just stay inside until the hotel security comes. However, Barbara opens the door to someone knocking, and as the door opens, Jim hears a loud crash from the phone as he runs up the stairs asking what's going on until the phone disconnects. When he finally reaches Barbara's room, he breaks the door down shouting for her, but he only sees blood on the shower curtain. Gripping the curtain and pulling it open, he finds Barbara naked in the tub and blood dripping from her mouth. Shortly after this, Barbara is in critical condition and they've halted the toxin's progression because she was infected with the Joker toxin. This leads Batman and Commissioner Gordon on a wild goose chase to find Joker, believing him to be responsible for the attack. However, it's not what they'd expect, because after Dick would find a Joker refusing to fight back and admitting he wasn't the one who hurt Barbara, which is completely unlike him, Dick begins to realize that this was all a huge misdirection, finally seeing who could have actually hurt Barbara. And over in Oracle's office, she starts tracking surveillance on James, and just as she thinks that she's found him, James appears behind her asking if she's happy to see him and grabs her. Later, Gordon and Dick arrive to her office to find everything destroyed and her wheelchair bloodied with no sign of Barbara, as Dick says to Gordon that they will find her. Elsewhere in Gotham, James steps out of the shadows asking Barbara if she likes the place, because he figured that they would take a stroll down memory lane. But Barbara says that when Batman and her father find him, he won't ever see the light of day ever again. However, James leans down telling her that it's funny. He's been having trouble being afraid of something like that all of his life. In fact, the only time he's ever been close to being scared was the day that he met Barbara. It was the day that their father introduced them to each other. It was like she was able to see the bad in James, asking Barbara, when were you able to tell? Like, really tell. And Barbara tells him that it was when he hurt that bus driver. James leans back, stating, that's right. She called me Four Eyes. But how did you even know that it was me? Barbara tells him that it was the way that he hurt her. 2 razor blades taped to a matchbox so that when it was opened, the cuts would be too close to stitch. So it was done by someone who wanted to hurt and torture them. James stands silent and then says, why don't you go ahead and take a look at your legs? James pulls the blanket off of her legs, revealing 2 knives stabbed into each of them, telling her that they're nice and tight next to her femoral arteries, so if she pulls one out, she'll bleed out in a matter of minutes. As he says to Barbara that when he was put in that cell next to the Joker, he said to the Joker that he really wished his sister would just slow down for a change, instead of always being in a rush. But he never realized the Joker would actually go ahead and make his wish come true, in which James apologizes. Barbara is in utter shock as to what James just said, leading James to disturbingly laugh, saying that she should have seen the look on her face. After so much gloating, Barbara then says that she thought he would look different than all the other villains in Gotham. She figured he would just appear in her bedroom one night and strangle her, but instead he's like everyone else, just sitting there gloating, keeping her alive. But in the middle of her talking, James rips one of the knives out and says that you're right, but this time, it's not about you.
Oh my god, why would you taunt them? Are you stupid? Are you stupid? Why would you taunt the killer with it's playing with your life? I don't get it.
About
so
in the
dumb.
middle of Dick talking to Tim Drake trying to find Barbara, the signal cuts out and James starts talking to Dick, knowing full well he's Batman. As James goes on to say every step of his master plan and how he jokerized his mother as a way to get back at his mother for institutionalizing him, along with adding that he surely poisoned the children of Gotham with his drug, essentially meaning that in a decade from now, there will be hundreds of kids roaming around just like him, hundreds of psychopaths in the making for him to usher in. However, before hanging up on Dick, he tells him that he's going to first kill his sister, then his father, and when he's done, he can't wait to see Dick quit because the grief will kill him as well. Putting down the radio, he turns around to find that Barbara has vanished, and James gets a little excited because now it's like a deadly game of hide and seek. As James tries to find Barbara, she comes out of nowhere with the other knife that she took out from her leg and uses it to stab James in his eye. James falls to the ground, and like an 80s horror villain, he looks at her and he says that she shouldn't have done that. Barbara tries to crawl away, but James isn't too far behind, about to kill her, until Dick swoops in, sucker punching James in the stomach. Saving Barbara, she questions how Dick knew where they were, to which he says that when Dick met James days prior, Dick had injected a tracer onto James when shaking his hand, cause he's not an idiot. During this, James slips out and tries to escape, climbing up to the bridge where he fell off so many years ago as a baby. And in the middle of celebrating his escape, James is then shot in the leg by his father. And when James tries to hobble forward, his father shoots him in the other leg as well, causing him to fall over the bridge. But before plummeting to his death, his father leaps forward, grabbing his son's arm, because even if he is a monster, he's still his son.
Oh,
The next day, James is placed in Arkham Asylum.
Was that actually heartfelt? Wait a minute. That hit a string, okay. That hit me, boy. Ooh, oof, oof. Anyways, that hit.
And after Gordon had tests run on baby formula that might have been passed around that was poisoned, the tests came up completely clean. However, there's no real way to know if it was poison or not in the end. So all the both of them can really do now is pray that in 10 or 20 years from now, there aren't more people like James Gordon Jr. roaming around in Gotham City. As the story ends with a panel of a baby that may very well be infected by James Jr.'s psychoactive drug, implying that James Jr.'s plan may have succeeded all along.
Well, we love
James Gordon Jr. is a monster through and through, and reading the story and what he does makes my skin crawl. Because unbelievably enough, there are a couple more things that he's done that I can't really mention on YouTube. And as for anyone wondering why I haven't mentioned James Gordon Jr.'s role in the Batman Who Laughs storyline, it's only because I actually want to make a full-length video going over that in itself. Or maybe I'm just going to procrastinate for like another 6 months and leave you guys guessing, but who knows?
How dare you? Okay, all right, okay.
But in conclusion, James Gordon Jr. is a scary villain.
Yeah,
his unpredictability.
I think what makes him scarier also is how they draw him. Right? He's not some flashy villain or overly creepy. He's just some random dude on the screen, and just because he looks like a random person, it just adds to the unnerving factor. Is that he's not a special character. He's just a guy.
Intelligence, lack of empathy, dark origin, and moral ambiguity. His ability to manipulate, harm, and commit terrifying acts without remorse makes him a truly chilling presence in the world of Gotham City. So beware when encountering James Gordon Jr., for his charm masks a darkness that will send shivers down your spine.
And he's still alive, right?
Nexus Edits, I hope you liked this video along with the many others that waited along the way. I have a real procrastination problem, but in that, you've all been troopers requesting this video for months. So y'all better have liked this video on James Gordon Jr., and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and as always, I'll catch y'all on the flip side. And thank you, Raid Shadow Legends, for sponsoring this video. You guys, Barbara Gordon and James Jr. were watching a scary movie, and James Jr. hand-delivered to Satan. When Barbara Gordon and James Jr. Should have known from the jump that this kid needed to be hand-delivered to Satan when Barbara Gordon and James Jr. were watching a scary movie, and James Jr. kept face-palming because the killer in the movie was doing a terrible job killing. What the fuck?
Nah, come on, nah.
Scary movie.
I've been there. Sometimes the killer really sucks at his job. You know, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes the killer really sucks at his job, and sometimes that's not normal. Nah, that's definitely normal. I always criticize the survivors and the killers. I'm always like, damn, he's stupid for doing that. Damn, I can't believe that person just walked out the door, man, without checking. No wonder he was stabbed in the back. He's just stupid. Damn, if I was a killer, I would have hit over there or done that, you know? Like, that's normal. Nah. You're pulling strings here. Damn, I could have done better. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, that has been my reaction to Batman's Scariest Villain. And I have to semi-agree that whatever makes this guy creepy is just because he's very normal. As in, he's very mundane to a point where it's actually kind of creepy because he could fit in our world and be a person like that in our world. Anyways, besides that little analysis, letting you guys know I'm doing this on Twitch, so anybody on YouTube, I'll leave a link to this video and to my Twitch in the description, so come check me out. You want to be here live. Besides that, I hope you guys all have a great day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.